Hi, welcome back to day 23 of the Azure Advent Calendar. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Jennifer Davis and I'm a cloud advocate at Microsoft. This series will cover security, and this video will talk about designing and architecting with the security mindset. Let's start out with talking about how to talk about security, especially when we're working on teams. It's critical to be able to set ourselves up for success in talking about how to increase our security and minimize the risk of harm to our systems. Models are useful ways to inspire conversations and build context between different people. One of the first models that I learned about when coming from a security perspective is the CIA Triad, or confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality is the set of rules that limit access to information to people who should have access to it. Integrity is that assurance that information is true and correct to its original purpose, and that only those who should be able to can modify that information. Availability is about the reliable access to information and resources to the individuals who need it when they need it. So when we look at this, if we think about security, it's not just about sticking all of our software and data into some locked box. We need to be able to have availability. If people can't access their information, it's not secure. A newer model is the DIE model. It helps orient architecture decisions by framing based on desirable outcomes. When we can choose a distributed architecture, for example, we can better manage the harm that is caused by distributed attacks. And it's really critical in today's environment with so many distributed denial of service attacks. When we can choose an immutable infrastructure, we can detect change and repair those changes so that we're not able to have people harming the system, even accidentally, with misconfigurations. When we can choose ephemeral infrastructure, then often by the time an attacker is able to figure out vulnerabilities on the system, that infrastructure is already gone. And the value of trying to compromise that infrastructure is reduced, approaching zero. Another area we should have conversations is talking about who are the people who are going to try and attack our systems? What are they trying to accomplish? What kind of resources do they have available to them? Why are they trying to leverage our vulnerabilities? What are their motivations and objectives? According to the 2018 as well as our 2019 Verizon Data Breach Investigations Report, the top motivation is financial gain, followed by espionage or strategic gain. Depending on the industry that we're working in, malicious individuals leverage different attacks due to the difference in the assets that we have. So, for example, some companies deal with a lot of payment card data, others with significant personally identifiable information. Other motivations may include things like doing it for fun or some kind of ideology or due to a grudge. It doesn't change the potential impact from the loss of trust from our consumers to the millions of dollars in possible fines. So when we design and architect our applications and services, we need to have conversations with our team and talk through the stories that can help us incorporate and model the CIA or DIE models in our acceptance criteria. Whatever mechanism we track work should include all of these different security stories. Then we're able to prioritize along with any feature work that helps us factor in these security stories. This also allows us to handle when we find security issues and we need to do a quick break fix that'll follow the same model. As an example, imagine you need to create a members-only area for content. Rather than just examining given a registered user when they log into the system, then they can see and do things that they're authorized to do, you can talk through the content that the user sees and what they do and what information we log and where. We need to examine how to deal with brute force attacks of failed logins, balancing the frustration of locking valid users out from malicious attackers. The Open Web Application Security Project, or OWASP, provides an open source project, the Application Security Verification Standard Project, that helps develop these stories that are critical for reducing risk in web and mobile projects. While you may not go through a ritual of documenting out requirements, it's absolutely critical to spend some time talking through what you're building and the why before you address how you're going to build it. Security and reliability of an application often rely on this early architecture and design decisions, and flaws in these can result in having to throw away all your code and start over. Threat modeling is the process by which we identify, prioritize, and document the potential threats. You know, those conversations we need to have about the potential people who are trying to attack our systems. All of this from a hypothetical attacker's point of view. We have to think about what our assets are, what data is valuable, and depending on the context of the work that you're doing, this may vary. Think about the different vectors of attack, or all of the entry points into our system, which are also known as our attack surfaces. All of these are points where we can have intrusion into our systems. Attack surfaces can include endpoints, database connections, and network transports, for example. There are a number of different models that are possible to adopt and a number of freely available tools to facilitate this, including one from Microsoft and also from OWASP. The last thing I want to talk about in this video is the concept of least privilege. Azure provides a rich set of tools and utilities around identity management. With Azure Active Directory, you can configure role-based access control, manage identities that automatically roll security credentials, use standard authentication and authorization protocols, and manage all the entities. This means rather than configuring single accounts for multi-use between users and services, you can configure specific service level accounts and separate out what users need and when they need it. In combination with multi-factor authentication, user-level compromises can be severely limited, reducing the likelihood that you will be making configuration errors that will lead to a compromised service. If you have any questions or feedback, please do share it with me on Twitter at SIGJE. Thanks so much.